Hi, very good evening to all of you. When Kotak Wealth told me that Nilesh Bhai, you have to moderate this session, I was very happy. This is not the time to be in spotlight and answering any question. And I'm thankful to both Major Gaurav Arya and Neelkanth Bhai that they accepted my invite to be in the spotlight. On behalf of all of us at Kotak Wealth, I welcome you to the second edition of Take and Counter Take. Take and Counter Take by Kotak Private is a curated knowledge platform designed to foster fresh perspectives and collective learning. Each session begins with a take, a viewpoint on contemporary issue, followed by a counter take that adds depth through complementary or contrasting insights. Together, they lead to a balanced and holistic view of what truly matters. मंथन करके अमृत निकले या जहर, पीना तो आपको पड़ेगा ही. At Kotak Private, we believe that meaningful conversations spark innovation and shape the future. And that's exactly what we aim to do here. Bring together eminent voices from finance, industry, and policy for a dynamic dialogue that goes beyond headlines. The inaugural edition of Take and Counter Take, held in December last year, took on a pressing question that set the tone for insightful discourse. Is India a safe bet for big investors? We could not have chosen a better topic, and we could not have gone wrong by this margin. But I'm sure that call was for a longer term, not for the shorter term. And no one would have anticipated what President Trump was up to. Today, we are in a situation where Trump साहब घायल है, इसलिए घातक भी है. इसके ऊपर तो थोड़ा डायलॉग इतना अच्छा था, तालियां मारिए प्लीज. टुडे एंड अभी फंड मैनेजर ने नेगेटिव रिटर्न दिया है तो डायलॉग मार के ही ताली मिलेगी, और क्या करेगा बेचारा. टुडे विल फोकस ऑन इज इंडिया ग्रोथ स्टोरी रेजिलिएंट टू जियोपॉलिटिकल शॉक्स. And with me, I have two eminent personalities who need no introduction. Please join me in welcoming Neelkanth Mishra, Chief Economist at Axis Bank, Head of Global Research Axis Capital, and Major Gaurav Arya, Editor-in-Chief of Chanakya Forum. Gaurav bhai, can I call you Gaurav bhai or Major?
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
हाँ, because हम तो गुज्जू है, तो गौरव भाई is more preferable.
नहीं, बिल्कुल सर.
So मार्केट में एक डायलॉग है, डॉन को समझना मुश्किल ही नहीं, नामुमकिन भी है. तो आप हमें समझाइए ये क्या चल रहा है, वो क्या अचीव करना चाहते हैं, and why go after Iran?
जी. First of all, sir, thank you very much for inviting me, and Jai Hind, everybody. There are 2-3 things. First of all, I was discussing with Neelkanth ji before we started this, and there is a method to Trump's madness, and we both agreed that there is a method to the madness. We think that his actions are random. His actions are not random. He's trying to achieve something. Now the thing is that what is he trying to achieve? So 2-3 things. First of all, what does victory mean in this for various countries involved in the conflict? For Israel, victory would look like a regime change in Tehran. This is what Israel wants, a regime that would not look at Israel as the enemy, a regime that would stop funding Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Ansar Allah group. Ansar Allah are the Houthis that you know of in Yemen, and such groups, Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, and such other groups. Also, no nuclear weapons, no ballistic missiles, etc. A benign regime, a democracy, that is what Israel wants. Essentially, regime change. If they are not convinced, Israel is happy to use violence. That is one. Now, what does the US want? I think it is more than oil. I think it is more than oil. It's also to deny China what China is trying to do. 3 years back, China brokered a deal, sir, between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and it collapsed. And Trump wants to take that away from China. He started off by cutting off Venezuela. 80 to 85% of Venezuela's oil was being bought by China. Now, it's not like that any longer. India has brought some 6 or 8 million barrels of oil from Venezuela. They've just started buying majorly from Venezuela. And now Iran. All this is happening. I think a larger geopolitical game is in progress. And the last factor here is Iran. Now, what does Iran want in this? Nobody estimated that Iran would start bombing Arab Muslim states. But they started bombing Arab Muslim states. Because the UAE had promised 1.5 trillion investment in the US. Qatar had promised, I think, 1.3 trillion investment. And Bahrain with 17 to 20 billion and Oman with 12 billion or something like that figures. Trillions of dollars of investment now they are unable to do in the United States. So there is an economic cost of war. Number 2, switching off both Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb. 1.5 years back, Kotak had a series of lectures, and I remember
choke point.
You know, sir ne invite kara aur bola ki map pe batao. So we had discussed these choke points 1.5 years back. So we spoke about the Suez Canal, we spoke about the Panama Canal, Bab el-Mandeb, we spoke about the Malacca choke or the Malacca Strait as you know it, and we spoke about the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the Strait of Hormuz and Bab el-Mandeb are, one is semi-active and one is fully active. So I think that is what Iran is trying to achieve. If Iran does not fail, if Iran wins this war, according to what Iran thinks is victory, then you're going to have an extremely belligerent Iran, which is going to achieve 2 big things. Number 1, control of 30% of the world's energy flows, and therefore China. So Venezuela and Iran are connected that way. If Iran controls it, so will China. That is number 1. Number 2, the leadership of the Muslim world, which is with Saudi Arabia right now, because Mecca and Medina are in Saudi Arabia, they have oil, they have gas, they have everything. That will shift to Iran because it is seen as the only power which has stood up against the combined might of the United States of America and Israel. So, sir, that is what is going on in a nutshell, according to me.
So one, Neelkanth, I'll first cover some questions, and if you want to, ask some question, please feel free. Our Navy, our ships are stuck in Hormuz Strait.
Yes.
We are not able to get contracted oil and gas from the strait. Can we deploy our naval capability to create a free passage? Second, when will this Hormuz Strait open? And are there alternative, like you run your ship with the transponder off, calling yourself Chinese owned ship, like Cetrini research report is showing, or you move your cargo through Omani territorial water and don't go into Iranian territorial water? What will be the options?
There are 2 things, sir. First of all, the Indian Navy is deployed massively in the Arabian Sea. I'm given to believe, there is no proof because the Indian Navy will not speak about these things, but I'm given to believe that our nuclear submarines are deployed. We have Arihant, we have Arighat, and we very recently, 1 week back, launched the Aridman. So Aridman is sea trials phase, and the rest of the 2 submarines, the SSBNs, are deployed. Our aircraft carriers are deployed, our destroyers, our frigates, our missile boats are there in the Arabian Sea. Now, there are 2 things, sir. First of all, the Strait of Hormuz, if you look at the Strait of Hormuz, it's very difficult. Once they come into the Persian Gulf or the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, then it's very easy for us to, take them to the international waters, and after that they can find their way. There is no danger. But this thing about Oman, does it work? Of course it works. Those are Omani waters, and Oman decides. Oman decides whether the ships should enter Omani waters or not. Fact of the matter is, in the long run, just 1.5, 2 hours back, you must have seen it on your mobile phones, the news came up that all diplomatic negotiations have stopped. Iran has said no more diplomacy. Pakistan was trying to play some diplomatic card, and apparently the Iranians don't trust the Pakistanis. And that way, the Indians and the Iranians are pretty similar because nobody trusts the Pakistanis. And there was this in Christine Amanpour's interview on CNN. The guest, Wali, I forget his name, Iranian origin, but Department of State of the United States of America. He said that the reason why the Iranians are not going to Pakistan is they believe they will be killed in Pakistan. Pakistan is luring them into a trap for the benefit of Israel and the United States of America, and they are afraid to go to Pakistan. So that is happening at the background. Iran has said no more diplomatic talks. It's all-out war. They've bombed Kharg. So, how does Iran pressurize you and me? Why are we facing a problem? It's because of the Strait of Hormuz. It's not because of the war. I mean, they can keep on bombing each other. If Israel bombs Iran and Iran bombs Israel, it won't hurt you so much. It will hurt you, but not so much. The issue is the Strait of Hormuz and the possible closure of Bab el-Mandeb. Now, if that happens, then we are neck deep in trouble. And if passing through Omani waters, if Iran thinks, in Hindi they say, marta kya na karta. If Iran thinks that everything is going to stop because people have found another way to move oil, it's not just oil, by the way. 90% of these Gulf states, they import their food. Registani ilaka hai na? It's desert. They don't grow crops like that. They don't have that kind of fresh water. So they have massive desalination plants, which Iran is hitting now. So they are dependent upon 90% of food imports. Food is not getting into that place at all. They're having difficulties. So maybe Israel is sending some food to Jordan and to Syria, and maybe from there it's coming. But from this side, I mean the Strait of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf, food going into the Gulf states is a problem. Fertilizer from there to here is a problem. Or manufacture of fertilizer here is a problem. Oil and lubricants and gas is a problem. So Iran knows it can pressurize the world through the Strait of Hormuz. If it finds that Oman is making a habit of letting ships pass, and that trump card is taken away from Iran, Iran will not shy away, whether, sir, the transponder is shut off or not. Iran will put a ballistic missile in a ship. And they have enough ballistic missiles to last for the next 2-3 months at this rate at which they are expending their ammunition. They have enough for 2-3 months more. So they can continue.
Major Saab, the way US and Israel has air superiority, they can go and extract their fallen, weapons firing officer of an aircraft. With that kind of air power superiority, how long these drones and missiles can last? Is it not possible to take out all those drones, missiles which are attacking or choking Hormuz Strait? How difficult it will be?
So you must have heard of the mosaic defense theory. It's been discussed in the media a lot. The Iranians studied the Ba'ath Party structure. The Ba'ath Party was the party that the leader was Saddam Hussein in Iraq. And they studied Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. And they studied all these states. And they studied the Arab Spring. You would have heard of the Arab Spring. Almost a revolution-like thing that happened in Arab countries. And they said that what happens if our leadership is taken out? And they made certain provisions in their laws, in their military thinking, that let us say one missile falls and our top leadership is taken out. Do we fall like the Taliban? Do we fall like Saddam Hussein's government? Do we fall like Gaddafi's government? Or do we stand as a nation state and fight back? That is one thing. So they came to this mosaic doctrine, which is, let's call it a structure without any central authority. So there are various small little structures that are independent of each other and they are fighting, and all of them have drones and missiles and stuff like that. So, and yes, they roughly report to the supreme leader, who's incapacitated as of now. Mujtaba Khamenei cannot speak. He's been very severely injured. Nobody knows whether he's dead or alive, but he's in a very critical condition. Those who think he's alive say that he's in a very critical condition. Now, sir, your point that they have absolute air superiority, I don't think they have absolute air superiority because Iran is able to bring down US planes. So I would not say that they can just go wherever they wish. But if America wants to control Iran, it has to put boots on ground. You have to put I am from the infantry. We guys are the foot soldiers of the Indian Army, right? And how do you know which is the border of India? You know that this is the border of India where an infantry soldier is standing with a gun because he makes sure that that is the border. So that is what the infantry does. You have to put American infantry on Kharg Island, you have to put it on mainland Iran, and make sure that you hold ground. As long as you hold ground, it's your ground, sir. From 30,000 feet in the air, you can do pretty much nothing. I mean, you can bomb, but those missile silos are like 1,000 feet below the ground in some mountain. Short of a nuclear strike, there is nothing that the Americans have, including JDAMs, including bunker busters, including bombs that go 200 feet into concrete and explode. These cities are 1,000 feet below the ground. I mean, Americans have there is no technology in the world by which you can destroy everything. The only thing you can do is put a nuclear weapon inside. I don't know if, well, with Trump, you don't know. Maybe he might just do something, but...
Do you think today evening's tweet which he has made where he says the entire civilization can be wiped off, is that an indicator? And
Sir, I think what actually, let me be very honest, America has not even used 10% of its might in Iran. They're just scratching the surface. If the Americans put all their military might on Iran, Iran will cease to exist. But the only problem is that there is going to be massive collateral damage. And I'm not talking about nuclear weapons. They have weapons which can flatten cities without them being nuclear weapons. They can do all of that. They have that kind of technology. And Americans have barely started. You know, we are talking, sir, in terms of win and lose, simply because, you know, हमें ऐसा लगता है कि Iran has been able to keep Hormuz closed, and Iran can pretty much fire. Who attacked Iran? It was America and Israel. Iran has hit Israel, it can't hit America because America is too far away. So mainland America is safe. So they're going to hit with suicide squads, they're going to hit with sleeper cells, they're going to carry out terror attacks in America. All that will happen. But if you want to control Iranian territory, you have to put boots on ground. There is no other way, sir. You have to put boots on ground. आप ऊपर से बॉम्ब करेंगे, एक लेवल तक कर सकते हैं, sir. But then somebody has to control it, you know. Somebody, who's that somebody? It has to be a soldier with a gun who will go there and say that, you know, I'm going to... That is what the Israelis are currently doing in Lebanon, by the way. South Lebanon, they have entered. And I'm telling you what the Israelis will do, mark my words. I'm saying this today in front of you. If these hostilities continue from the Hezbollah side, Israel will simply take over a part of Lebanon and make it a part of Israel. That is how Israel punishes its enemies. You attack them from Syria, they'll take over Golan Heights. You know, you attack them from Palestine, they'll take over Gaza and the West Bank. They just take over territory, the Israelis. And then you can keep on crying about it and saying that ye to occupy kar lete hain. But so be it, you attack them first, so they'll take over territory. That is what they're going to do, sir.
नीलकंठ भाई, हमारी इकोनॉमिक कुंडली में राहु काल तब चालू होता है जब ऑयल के दाम ऊपर जाते हैं. And undoubtedly this is Rahu Kalam as higher oil prices impact rupee rates, equity market, GDP growth. In your opinion, how much is the damage done? How much more we can bear the pain? And what steps government is taking or should be taking to minimize the impact?
Again, I must thank you for inviting me in a full house. And of course, sitting on the stage with Major Arya is of course a privilege as well. We can only do sensitivities. We don't know what oil prices will be. Say, the markets and everyone here, I think everyone in the oil markets, everyone in the financial markets thinks that this is not going to last because the outcome is so bad, it can't last. What you can do is sensitivities. So if you assume $100 per barrel oil for 1 year, you have a 2% of GDP impact. So effectively, think about it this way. If India is a black box, you were earlier paying something to get the energy in. Now you have to pay $80 billion extra. Someone has to pay for it. And when you pay for that, there is less money left to pay for other things, and therefore the economy shrinks, or at least doesn't grow that fast. But this is a one-time impact. Because next year, so once the terms of trade have adjusted, then you start getting back close to your trend growth again. So this is a one-time adjustment. So unless we think that 70 going to 100 and 100 is going to go to 140 or 130, this is a one-time impact. There are other issues at play as well. I think the most important one is supply chain disruption. So the fact that methanol and a very large part of methanol production used to happen in West Asia, and or sulfur, helium, all of these things have been discussed. The fact that this starts to disrupt small items, the paint gun in a car shop uses LNG, and you don't have that, and therefore the car painting stops, and the whole supply chain then starts to buffer up, and then you start seeing order cancellations and so on and so forth. You have airlines, cancelling flights. So the Gulf Airlines, because they have dramatically reduced their flight schedules, they themselves have reduced oil demand by almost 1 million barrels a day. But that also means that there is a 15 to 17% decline in global airline capacity. That also means that hotels in Agra are seeing 50% cancellations of foreign tourist arrivals. To our good fortune, this is the end of the tourist season, but in areas where spring break, tourism, etc. was going to happen, at least in Asia, there are serious issues that are emerging. So there are second order effects, which are more what I would call supply chain issues. If you remember that small chip that was going into a tier 4 supplier that went into a car produced by Jaguar Land Rover, and the whole car couldn't be manufactured because that small chip was missing. Those kind of issues can also start hitting us. So that's the impact. I think in the near term, given that it is bad for us, it is terribly bad for the world. So if 4% of energy is taken out, it effectively means 4% of global GDP is taken out. You can do some substitution. You can do some efficiency gains, meaning you say, oh, kids, let's not send them to school for 6 months, let them do online schooling. But still, there is 2 to 3% of world GDP which gets affected. Everyone in the markets is feeling that, look, this can't last. It is so bad that it can't last. And so I think what Iran is trying to do is one fascinating book called Unrestricted Warfare by 2 Chinese colonels written in 1999. They call it the side principle, that if your opponent is very strong, and they are bombing you to smithereens, you hit them where they least expect to and where it hurts them most. And I think they realize that the impact is the worst on the financial markets. So it is only when, in fact, when just outside chatting with someone, and we were discussing that, oh, the bombing seemed to have started, and then we looked at the stock prices and the bond market, and there seems to be no sense of panic. So Trump is not going to back off when this happens. Trump is only going to back off when financial markets start throwing stress. From the government perspective, if this is a 2-month disruption, then I think what the government has done is the right thing, that do not allow excessive volatility to happen. So don't let the currency weaken a lot, because the currency will need to weaken. So if oil prices are going to be $100, then the INR may need to go to 98, 99. There's no rocket science. I mean, there's no objective science to this. It's a broad estimate. But if the oil prices are going to start recovering in 6 months, coming down, then that adjustment is not necessary. So why take USD INR to 99 and then bring it back to 92 or 91? So it makes sense to buffer it up. Same with fiscal interventions. So the simple way to think about it is that this is a step jump in energy prices. We net import 50%, nearly 50% of our dense energy in the form of oil, gas, fertilizer, edible oil, uranium, metallurgical coal. We put all that together, this is nearly 50% of our dense energy. So there is a one-time adjustment on growth, there is a one-time adjustment on inflation, there is a one-time adjustment on currency. That needs to happen. Once that is done, I don't think there is anything more that we need to fear or worry about. In fact, compared to any other time in our history, I think we are the best prepared that we can imagine. In fact, someone clearly much wiser than all of us, at least for me for sure, he was in the saddle when the 91 crisis happened. And he was telling someone, a very senior policymaker, you know, and this was well before the war hit. He said, the current phase reminds me of the 89 to 93 period. Things are going to get really choppy, so just hold tight. And he was right. I mean, of course, he was thinking Taiwan. I was telling him, if something happens, it'll be Iran. But the fact that these things will happen, and frankly, from the government's perspective, it is extremely important to realize that this is not the end of it. So as Major Arya was saying, this is part of a grand war between US and China. So till the equations are settled, we should expect to see disruptions every 1 to 2 years.
So नीलकंठ भाई, हमारे गुजराती में एक कहावत है, दुक्कारमा अधिक मास. When there is famine, there is also an additional month. So instead of 4 months, you have to bear famine for 5 months. And Major साहब, हमारी मार्केट में ऐसा ही हो गया. In rupee, RBI was shot forward by $60-70 billion. And then, you know, oil prices went up. In interest rate, RBI was about to end their monetary policy rate cut cycle. And now, because of inflation and rupee, who knows what they will do. Equity market FPIs were selling aggressively. And now with this vulnerability, they have started selling even more. So first, Neelkanth bhai, to you, how do you decipher rupee rate and equity? And then Gaurav sahab, will there be a respite?
Sir, 1 minute, with your permission. Thank you very much. मुझे लगा था आप ये मुझे सवाल पूछ रहे हैं. I did not understand a word of what you were saying. Market, short, rupee. I said, ये क्या हो रहा है? I hope it's not towards me. Please carry on.
Okay, so let's start with the currency. So I don't know if you've been tracking, but last to last Friday, the RBI passed a very dramatic change in policy. So they limited arbitrage exposures to $100 million. A very inane type of press release that came out. A very, very harmless, not inane, but harmless press release that came out. Frankly, even I thought that this would mean a $5-6 billion adjustment, and what the RBI was trying to do was fight the battle on its own turf. So basically, to simplify, there is an onshore market, which is within India, where the RBI has authorized dealers, deals with all the dollar income and outgo. And there is an offshore non-deliverable forwards market. Basically, that you can trade the rupee. You don't need to take the rupee. So what you say is that you come in at 92 and you think that it's going to 94. When it goes to 94, you just book the 2 rupees, right? So it's a non-deliverable forward. Now, what I was shocked by was that the arbitrage positions were $40 billion, and there was a further $30 billion of options. This suddenly made so much sense because our balance of payment deficit, basically how many dollars you need versus how many dollars you are getting, that gap between that, the deficit was only $15-20 billion. But the RBI had burnt $40-50 billion, and it was like a bottomless pit. And then in March, we heard that RBI is intervening heavily, $25-30 billion, and the rupee is not stabilizing. So what was happening was that in 21, when this arbitrage was allowed, the RBI was trying to internationalize the rupee. So that, because it was a protected market, they said, look, let the NDF market and the onshore market be connected. And now they realized that this is becoming like a leaky bucket. So you keep intervening, but someone outside, some macro punter is saying, you know what, RBI is already short on the forward side. We don't know how long the oil prices will remain high. And so in this uncertainty, I can keep hitting the rupee. So in one shot, the RBI was able to close it. Now, of course, that also means that banks had to book heavy losses. They're extremely upset. And the internationalization of the rupee is now been set back by many years. But what it does do is then now the RBI can fight the battle on people who really need dollars or have extra dollars. So the ability to manage rupee volatility is going to be much, much better than it was in the last 2 years or so. So I expect that if the oil prices remain high, rupee needs to fall, but RBI should be able to manage the volatility in a much better way. On the stock markets, Nilesh bhai, you know that 3 years back or 2 years back, our markets were like 2-3 standard deviations above their past ranges, meaning that the P multiples were excessively high, and they needed a period of time correction. Unfortunately, what happened, and I've been saying this for a while now, that in FY25, in this fiscal year 25, we ended up doing fiscal tightening and monetary tightening at the same time. So in any economy, when you have fiscal and monetary tightening happening at the same time, the economy decelerates. When the economy decelerates, everyone is disappointed. We saw the worst of our earnings cuts. While it does seem tragic that just about the time that the economy was starting to thrive, so as the fiscal tightening ended, the RBI also became conducive, basically supported, and the monetary tailwinds were starting to hit. Like March was a blockbuster month. You look at cement, cement was Jan-Feb was strong, March was a bit iffy. Auto sales, credit demand, amazing strength in the economy. So for now we take a breather because there is a terms of trade shock. But I think that once this uncertainty gets over, and it's a question of when, not if, because it is so painful for the world that it has to end. And therefore, whenever it ends, I think that the economic momentum will resume, and that will bring the excitement back to the stock market.
मेजर साहब, हमने बचपन में कहानी सुनी थी, 2 बंदर थे, एक बिल्ली थी, 2 बंदर में लड़ाई होती रही रोटी के लिए और बिल्ली रोटी खा गई। आज भी 2 बंदर लड़ रहे हैं, यूएस, चाइना, इजराइल, ईरान। भारत बिल्ली कैसे बने और उनकी रोटी कैसे खा जाए?
ये तो नहीं पता, ये मैंने कहानी नहीं सुनी, लेकिन I can tell you there are 2-3 things which I would like to say from a military perspective here. For a very long time, we have been a very benign nation, and it's not okay, because if the last 1 year has taught us anything, and even before that, I mean throughout history, thousands of years, but especially the last 1 year has taught us that there is no right and wrong and there is no morality. People do whatever they wish to do, and the world adjusts accordingly. The world would adjust. First of all, I think, जो हमारे अंदर ये बात है कि हम लोग कहते हैं वासुदेव कुटुंबकम, आपने सुना होगा ये सब ना, ये फंडामेंटली गलत हैं ये चीजें. They are fundamentally wrong because आपको दिख रहा है वर्ल्ड इज योर फैमिली, कुछ आपको समझ में आ रहा है, थोड़ा सा प्रेशर आता है and it's dog eats dog. थोड़ा सा प्रेशर आता है. When everything is picture perfect, when the markets are good, everybody's making money, everybody smiles. People are happy. And as soon as something happens where that money flow stops or that cash flow is not what you want it to be, then you see the ugly side of people. Today, I have reasons to believe that China is largely orchestrating Iran's behavior to a very large extent. China is doing it, Russia is giving a helping hand. And they can do pretty much what they feel like because China and the Chinese troops were very friendly when I was on the line of actual control, and I'm talking about 1997 and middle of 98, after which I went to J&K. They were very friendly, they would wave, we would wave. And this waving thing happened even in Galwan, it happened everywhere. Well, lately there was bloodshed a few years back in Galwan, all of you know. So, the Chinese just kept quiet and they kept on building their army. They kept on building their economy. And suddenly one day the people realized that they had the biggest navy in the world, bigger than the US Navy. Though not in terms of lethality, because US Navy has 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, it's a different ballgame altogether. But yes, the Chinese will catch up in 10, 12 years. They will catch up. So what you need to do, sir, to answer your question, you need to have massive manufacturing at a massive level. You need to have defense manufacturing at a massive level. You need to be militarily strong. Chanakya said this 2,500 years back. You've all heard of Acharya Chanakya, who wrote the Arthashastra. He said, Koshasya balat senaya jayate. Koshasya balat senaya jayate means from the strength of the treasury, the army is born. And this man said it 500 years back, 2,500 saal pehle. And he was in and around the time of Alexander the Great. And he said from the strength of the treasury, 1.9% of the GDP is not going to help you. People say that, no, we are a poor country and we need to put money here, and of course you need to. Then find money. Find money. We were supposed to have 65 squadrons. Air Force, 65 squadrons. You know who gave the number of 65? It was Mr. J.R.D. Tata. When India lost the 1962 war with the Chinese, the government of the day created a commission. The head of the commission, that fact-finding body, was Mr. J.R.D. Tata. And he said, and apart from being a very great business leader, he was an intellectual giant. And Mr. Tata said India needs 65 squadrons. From 65, it came to 55, to 45, then they said 42. Today we are at 29. We are at 29. All right? And we have ordered, or we are in the process of ordering 114 Rafales and maybe 120 Tejas, etc. But the fact of the matter is, by the time we receive, or we start to receive all these aircraft, we would have got down to 22 squadrons. Literally half of what we need to fight collusivity, and this collusivity is between Pakistan and China. So at one point in time, we used to say, there is China to the east and Pakistan to the west. Right? If you look at the map, there is China to the east and Pakistan to the west. Today, sir, the truth is there is China to the east and China to the west. Pakistan is simply an extension of China. Like you're seeing that Iran, in more ways than one, is an extension of China. So that is what is happening. If we need to be strong, you would have heard, Binay Namanat Jaladijad, Gaye Teen Din Beet, Bole Ram Sakop Tab, Bhai Ben Hoye Na Preet. There is no friendship without fear, unless you can instill fear in the hearts of both your friends and your enemies. China will not let you survive. China will not let you live. There can be only one boss in Asia. India does not want to be a boss. India wants to get along with everybody. That is our nature. We don't say that, we want to be the leaders, we want to be a superpower. We have never said we want to be a superpower. We are talking about Vishwaguru, which means that the global teacher who teaches, who shares values. China is not interested in values. They're interested in raw power. And they will come back to Galwan, sir. The Chinese will come back to Galwan. ये जो मैंने आपको सुंदरकांड का पढ़ाया था, आपने सुना है ये? नहीं सुना है? With your permission, sir, मैं context समझा दूं. When Prabhu Shri Ram was at the edge of the sea, he prayed to the god of the sea. And he said that my wife Sita is in Lanka. Please part the ocean so I can walk. So for 3 days, he was thirsty, he was hungry, and he prayed to the sea god. And the sea god did not appear. So in anger, he took out his bow and arrow and pointed the arrow towards the sea. Binay Namanat Jaladijad. Request. The stupid water does not listen to Lord Ram's request. Gaye teen din beet. 3 days have passed. Bole Ram Sakop Tab. Then in anger, Prabhu Shri Ram said, Bhai Ben Hoye Na Preet. There is no friendship without fear. So unless you lift up your bow and point it to the ocean will not part. Scam है सर ये वासुदेव कुटुंबकम वगैरह ये सब गलत है. I am very against it. The projection of military power, the projection of economic power. You help all these countries in the neighborhood. You give money to everybody, you give money to Bangladesh, you give money to Nepal, you give money to Maldives. Every year in our budget, we give hundreds of crores of rupees to these countries. And we don't demand anything in return. You know how they behave. Because we do not project power. And unless we learn to project power, these things will keep on happening. Something will happen thousands of kilometers away and it will hurt us. Because we are not powerful enough. When I say powerful, I mean diplomacy. We should be in a position to tell Iran कि हमारे 50 जहाज जाएंगे और 50 जहाज छोड़ोगे. And you maintain relations. Do whatever you have to do, but you have to manage. You have to manage your supply chains. Without that, we are pretty much finished.
So, Neelkanth Bhai, how do we raise resources for one, funding our military? Second, government did cut excise duty on petrol and diesel. There is talk about credit guarantee scheme for MSME. But in your opinion, what more should the government do in ensuring that, one, we maintain our high growth range and also raise resources to fund what Major Gaurav was talking about?
So, I 100% agree that, you know, the strength of the military comes from economic strength. And I must say that generation of that economic strength requires many, many reforms. And some of them are, to some extent, stroke of the pen reforms. So, for example, you know, what this has exposed is our energy vulnerability. So to take a step back and to directly answer your question, how do we sustain a high growth rate despite the adverse conditions that we are seeing? Because the moment you are able to sustain a growth rate, your tax collections remain robust, and then there is a surplus, meaning that once the basic expenditure of interest costs, salary, pensions of the government, the so-called essential subsidies are taken care of, whatever surplus you generate after that can then be deployed into discretionary items, which is like defense. Defense itself can create a lot of innovation, a lot of demand. So there is enough there. How do we grow? And I think the core of the problem is that, unlike China, we have not tried to control our own sources of energy. So the only sources of energy we have, like coal, wind, and solar, can be used only in the form of electricity. So if you see, there is an India energy balance report that comes out. If you divide end use of energy and see what percentage is electricity, in China it is upwards of 30%. In India, it is 17 or 18%. So China also is a net importer of oil. It's a net importer of gas. It is deeply vulnerable to food shocks, and which is why it is paranoid and has been stocking up on all of these things. But they've invested. So they did the HVDC lines. They've innovated on power distribution. Last year China added 543 gigawatts of power capacity. Our total capacity is 520. They did 100 gigawatts of thermal power capacity. So contrary to all of this decarbonization, it is finally that we need the energy. And these grand wars are actually fought on these principles about economic models, about the cost of energy, the availability of energy. The Americans are desperate because their grid can't take renewable energy. So they want to bring down oil and gas prices, which is why the desire to bring Iran to the fold, bring Venezuela to the fold and all that. The point I'm making is that we have not even tried to accelerate electrification. An essential part of doing that is to get the pricing right. We have the cheapest energy in the world, cheapest electricity in the world for households and farmers. And we have the most expensive electricity in the world for industry and commercial. If you are energy short, the first thing you want to do is price it right so it is used carefully. I have been saying to the government repeatedly that, look, it is important that industry gets cheap energy, because then you create jobs so that people can pay for the power themselves instead of just giving free power everywhere. I think this is a great opportunity. So what you were saying was, while it is not really equivalent to two monkeys fighting and the cat eating the roti, but I think the lesson for us is that it is only when our backs are to the wall that we take the tough decisions. I was once listening to the Singapore president. He said, you know, India's tragedy is its large size and its glorious history. So there were 5, 6 of us Indians in the room, and we said, well, large size, glorious history, totally agree. Why is it tragic? He said, this is why tough decisions are never taken. It is only at times like these when you can actually say that, look, we are energy starved. In the 1970s, when Japan faced the first oil shock, you should see how dramatically the energy efficiency improved. Today, per unit of energy, Japan generates 4x the GDP that we do. So we need to improve efficiency. Efficiency comes from better pricing. We need to do pricing reform. We need to accelerate electrification. We need to invest more in defense. And I personally think that just the building of housing, real estate and infrastructure, you know, if we are on the right path, and I think we are, by 2040 or so, we should be a $20 trillion economy, which is about $12,500 per capita. Today, Malaysia is by same ballpark. 81% of Malaysia's capital stock is residential real estate, commercial real estate, and infrastructure. The construction of that is completely in our control. Can we not free up housing? Can we not, like, you know, what UP has done, that you free up FSI for hotels. I mean, we have the most expensive tourist destinations in the world. Why not allow more freedom, deregulation? And I think some of these opportunities, this is the right time to actually take those hard calls so that our economy starts to flourish. Once it does, I think everything else falls in place.
Major Gaurav, what will be the lesson from this conflict for Indian military? We have seen how Iran has been able to stand with drones, missiles, and kind of decentralized mosaic planning to mighty America and Israel. We have also seen how your internal systems can be hacked. So what will be lessons for Indian military?
Thank you for this question, sir. Very important question. And I think the biggest learning for the Indian military will be, how can you turn the Malacca Strait into a Strait of Hormuz? A significant part of Chinese trade passes through Malacca. And that will be the target. So I know even today, there are people in South Block, uniformed people, very senior, who are studying this conflict like it's under a microscope, and they're studying it, and they're trying to figure out what are the lessons. So what has happened? What has happened is that you see missiles, you see drones, and you see aircraft. China looks at it differently. China has put a very steep economic cost on the rest of the world and the United States of America, and nobody's talking about Israel right now. You see? Israel is getting bombed, Israel is bombing back, etc., but who's at the center? It is essentially the United States of America. Now, what the Indian armed forces are seeing is that, okay, we can't match China dollar to dollar. And the amount China can spend on its military, we can't do that. China's budget is literally 2.5 times ours. And it's very difficult for an economy like ours to spend as much as China does. But then, I mean, if you look at the budgets, the American budget would be 25 times Iran or 30 times Iran, or even more than that. And how is Iran managing to keep everybody at bay? Though it's like a suicide pact, and you can't win wars behaving the way Iran is behaving, but the fact of the matter is that for the past 30, 35 days, they're fighting against the rest of the world. I mean, the entire Middle East is in flames and they've managed to inflict serious damage. There were so many economists, even today they're saying that if this lasts, we are looking at global recession. There are so many people who are talking about global recession. Now, Iran has managed to do that. And there are lessons for us. Can we have as many aircraft carriers as China in the long run? Maybe not. Can we have as many soldiers, as many weapon platforms as China? No, because it's essentially a function of money. And we can't spend as much as China. But then even Iran can't spend as much as America or Israel. So asymmetry is the answer, sir. Make war asymmetric. Find out ways and means by which you can cause tremendous damage to China without having corresponding platforms. That is the way to look at this conflict, because I'm speaking purely from a military perspective, sir. And from a military perspective, how do you manage Pakistan? How do you manage Pakistan? Is it time, and I'm being very candid and open here, sir, is it time to arm the Taliban? Is it time to actually give weapons to those countries that have a border dispute with China? Is it time to give long-range missiles to countries like Indonesia? Maybe have a better understanding with Taiwan? Maybe do all of these things? We'll have to. You see, for a very long time, we have had a very inward-looking policy. You must have heard this dialogue in the movie many times, कि भारत ने कभी किसी पे हमला नहीं करा. Have you heard this? India has never attacked any other country. It's blatantly false. Okay, this whole dialogue is a scam. Okay, it's not true. Maharaja Ranjit Singh, he conquered Afghanistan. I hope you know that. And General Zorawar of the Dogra armies, he conquered Tibet. The Cholas went all the way, Southeast Asia, the Angkor Wat temples. They conquered those areas. They conquered Sri Lanka. So to say that, Indians never have done this, मैं तो अक्सर कहता हूँ, all the gods and goddesses have weapons in their hands, right? आपने देखा है किसी देवी देवता को बिना हथियार के? That is the entire context. Everybody is fighting all the time. And that is the true nature of this. So I hope it will not be very controversial. Can I just say it?
Yeah.
This whole ahimsa thing is a Ponzi scheme, okay? ये इसको दे दिया फिर डबल इसका हो जाएगा फिर हमारा फायदा कभी कुछ नहीं होता कभी कुछ नहीं होता in 5000 years of human history which is recorded, please tell me, and this is a challenge, you have your smartphones, please go to Google and check, have we had 50 years in 5000 years, have we had 50 years of peace across the world? It is in our nature to fight. We are not stronger than elephants, we are not more ferocious than lions, right? We can't swim like the fish. We are not as poisonous as snakes. लेकिन चिड़ियाघर में वो लोग हैं, हम लोग बाहर हैं. If they are stronger, we should have been inside the zoo and they should have been outside. Why are the animals inside the zoo? Because we are the most dangerous of the species in the world. We have killed everybody. After killing everybody, after putting everybody in the zoo, after cleaning out all the jungles, then we say ahimsa paramo dharma. That is not true. That is not true. So we have to realize our inner spirit. We are not peaceful people. We were never meant to be peaceful. People should know. मैं सर आपकी परमिशन हो एक बात बता देता हूँ. I often quote this example and then people say that yes, ठीक समझ में आया. If you can cause harm and you choose not to cause harm, आपका choice है. You want to be peaceful. You can cause harm. You have the capacity, but you don't cause harm. Then you are peaceful. If you can't cause harm and you don't cause harm, then you are harmless. So we should be peaceful, not harmless. That is what I'm saying. So far we are perceived to be harmless. कि ना ये कुछ करना चाहते हैं ना कुछ कर सकते हैं, है ना? So unless we have this, we are not going to get anything done.
Neelkanth bhai, taking inside-out view, what's your view on de-dollarization? Will the world start trusting US dollar less? Will investors take out money from American assets? And in case de-dollarization happens, what will be the alternative? And what will be your view on gold in that context?
This is a question I face often, so it's a well-rehearsed answer. There are three aspects to this. First is the level of the dollar. The Dixie, as they say, the DXY, the trade-weighted dollar. The second is dollar as a reserve currency. And the third is the invoicing, dollars used as an invoicing currency. So these are three distinct and completely unrelated aspects of the dollar. So when people talk about de-dollarization, they confuse one with the other. So to give you a sense of the Dixie, the trade-weighted dollar, in 2009, it was at 78. Before the Trump tariffs, it was at 116. It's now at 100, it had fallen to 96 in between. And I think that in the next 2-3 years, it will fall to 80 again. So it can remain the reserve currency of the world, it can remain the preferred invoicing currency of the world, and yet be very volatile in value. So contrary to the views that there is de-dollarization, you look at capital flows in the US. The US had phenomenal current account deficits, meaning very large current account deficits, despite all the tariff drama that Trump is doing. And how was that funded? Because foreigners were hunting after US stocks. So the nature of buying has changed, so they're no longer buying US treasuries, but foreigners are buying US equities in big way. So the Dixie is completely unrelated. I think the Dixie needs to fall. The trade-weighted dollar needs to fall. Almost all of the strategic targets, objectives that the US has of becoming a manufacturing base, of making the debt to GDP more sustainable, all of those objectives cannot be met if the dollar remains strong. So at some point in the next 2 to 3 years, once they're done doing all this drama, I think they will try to kill the dollar. In which case, then the competitive devaluation of currencies will mean that gold becomes or remains a very attractive asset. On the dollar as a reserve currency, I think that era is past. So we are now starting to see, one, I think the need for reserves is much lower. As you know, reserves became necessary only around the 90s. Earlier, it was a kind of an afterthought. It was after the Asian financial crisis that the countries realized that they needed to have reserves. Then they did too much of it. So the Saudis had too much of it. The Chinese had too much of it. Then they started creating sovereign wealth funds. They realized that keeping all of your, 70% of India's foreign currency assets are with the RBI, yielding 4%. We have deliberately chosen to do that because we want to signal to the world that we are a safe country, please keep investing, RBI. So it's a very big cost. And the Chinese said, after $3 trillion, we don't need any more. They started diversifying. So reserve currency, dollar share is falling at 1% a year for the last 15 years or so. It will keep falling, but that's a long process. Dollar as an invoicing currency, I don't think is going to change in the next 10, 15 years. Because it is plain simple arithmetic. If you have 30 large currencies in the world, which add up to about 95% of world GDP, and you want to have liquid exchange rates. See, when you are trading, it is all about efficiency. So if you want to go from one currency to the other, the bid-ask spread, basically the bid is what the buyer wants or is bidding for, and ask is what the seller wants to give. That spread needs to be narrow. If you just do a 30C2, 30 choose 2, 30 into 29 by 2, you're talking about 300 plus rates that you need to keep liquid. Whereas if you keep one currency in the middle, which currently is the dollar, then you just have 29 exchange rates. So to go from INR to CNY, I can go to INR to USD, USD to CNY. I have a very liquid exchange rate. So unless you find another currency which can be placed there, it's going to be very difficult. What will happen, and I'm 100% sure even the Americans are not against it, is that as the economic geography shifts, So as India becomes bigger, China keeps growing bigger, and then you can have, selectively some trade that is happening in local currency. So over 15, 20 years, slowly the dollar share as an invoicing currency will fall from 80, 85%, or 87% it is right now. But I am not holding my breath for that.
Now, as we come close to our question answer session, we'll have a rapid fire and you can give conditional answer. Neelkanth bhai, will oil cross $200 this year?
No.
Will rupee touch 100 this year?
It can.
Will equity first go to 20,000 Nifty and then rise, or will it move up from current level?
Wait for 12 hours.
10-year yield, will it touch 7 quarters, 7.5, or will it fall below 7 by year end?
No, I think that it can fall to, if oil does normalize, I would say a 625, 630 is very much possible. Can 725 happen? That is possible, but I don't think it is likely.
Tomorrow RBI governor will raise rates to support rupee, or he'll be...
I don't think so. So I'll take maybe 1 minute to explain this. So a lot of the treasury people, like bank treasury people who trade currency and bonds, have been really shocked by the magnitude of that intervention, as I mentioned Friday before last, and say that if the RBI is so desperate to control the rupee, why won't they raise rates? I think of it the other way. Given that they've managed to get back $40 billion because of that intervention, it potentially delays rate-related defense of the INR by at least 2 months. So, look, if the oil prices stay at 100, 120, the rupee needs to fall. But now it will fall at the pace at which the RBI wants to. And I don't think rate hikes, tomorrow though anyway, no chance.
And will coal touch $5,500 previous high this year?
I think so.
So you get all the answers of your asset classes, what to buy, what not to buy. Major Gaurav, rapid fire for you.
Yes, sir.
Who will win, US, Israel or Iran?
Sir, China.
Will China move on Taiwan in near future to medium term?
No, sir. Long term, yes. Near future, no.
Will we see one more Operation Sindoor this year?
Towards the end of the year, sir, it's likely. My estimate is that it's likely, but again, it's going to be a very short and swift intervention, and that's about it. And I hope the Navy does not get involved, because if the Indian Navy gets involved, then it's not going to be a short intervention. Then things are going to go south very fast. So that's about it, sir.
Will we see more terrorist incidences across the world as a fallout of current geopolitical?
100%, sir. 100. Lone wolf attacks, sleeper cells, 100%. In India, abroad, Europe, America, everywhere, there are going to be more terror acts.
Is there any black swan risk which we haven't discussed in last 1 hour? Koi aur apatti?
No, sir, I think we have covered all the ground, sir. I think it's been very well.
See, there are a couple of things that can go wrong. The first is that the decentralization strategy that Iran has adopted is wonderful for survival, but it makes it very hard to get into agreements. Basically, if Arakchi or whoever is negotiating on their behalf, does negotiate a transaction or a deal, what if some of the people who have been operating independently say, "Bhai, hame nahi manna bas." So I think that is untested. We are assuming that it will work, but I think that's, for me, that's the biggest fear I have. And the second is that the potential escalation. See, I think what Trump does in his negotiation, if you remember the 25 going to 50, I think he was upset that the PM was not calling him. And so he said, you know what, I'll raise it to 50, and now you have to call him. Finally, he still didn't call, and then went and signed the EU FTA, and he said, "Oh, this actually is hurting me now. So let me sign the India deal as well." So he's like that. So he will, if there is a stalemate, he will escalate. So far, he's escalated verbally, but as he escalates, if it results in permanent damage to energy facilities, then I think it is possible that we see even $200 oil.
One final question. If Prime Minister Modi calls you and says, give me one recommendation for today, what it will be?
I don't think he's going to call me, sir. But one thing I can say that I would say that, and a lot of you will disagree, but we must put defense at 3.5%, sir. That is what my recommendation would be as a military person. 3.5%. There is no other way of doing it, because the world is so unstructured today. Tomorrow, if we are not prepared, and the Indian army will go all out and they will fight to the last man. But today, in today's day of technology, if anybody thinks that China will not come back into Galwan or try to enter Galwan, I think we are sadly mistaken, because China is going to come back after some time. When things have settled, they will come back. They will try and take territory. China has a border with, I think, 12 or 13 countries. China has a border with 12 or 13 countries, and it has a border dispute with 22 countries. मतलब चाइना के साथ बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट होने के लिए बॉर्डर होना जरूरी नहीं है, उसका रैंडम बॉर्डर डिस्प्यूट है. So I was speaking sometime back, sir, to the ambassador of Mongolia, sir. I had gone to the embassy, and he said, you know, we are in a very unfortunate position. There is Russia on the north and China on the south, and we are in between, and we are a landlocked country. So I said, yes, ambassador, so what is the challenge? He said, with the Russians, you know. With the Chinese, you never know. What they are thinking, वो बोलते कुछ हैं, सोचते कुछ हैं, करते कुछ हैं, कुछ नहीं पता उनका. With the Russians, you know, if the Russians say we'll attack, we'll attack. The Chinese say we'll attack, no, we maybe. It's like that. So we need to, 3.5% is what I'll say, sir.
नीलकंठ भाई, आपको तो फोन आया होगा, आपने क्या बताया?
नहीं, मुझे भी नहीं फोन आता है, आपको आता है पक्का, मुझे पता है. No, I would say energy price reform. It's a very nerdy answer, but I think pricing electricity right, pricing energy right is very important.
Thank you, Neelkanth Bhai and Major Gaurav, for this lively discussion.
Thank you everyone. Thank you, Neelkanth.